Hello, Steelers Nation. I am Jeremy Ritz, one of your hosts here of the Steel City Insider podcast, alongside publisher of the Steel City Insider himself, Jim Wexell. And we are here to talk to you about the Steelers' win over the Raiders. But before we get into that, it's Tomlin Tuesday. And Jim, we may have a new starting quarterback this weekend against the Jets.
Not that I'm surprised. I was a little hesitant. I wrote in my column. I'm a little, 2 weeks ago I was saying that Justin Fields was all fixed, was the answer, and another quarterback has flowed to them. And after 2 weeks, the two of the worst teams. I mean, Dallas has to be one of the worst teams in football, right?
They look pretty bad this weekend.
Yeah. And the Raiders beat them, right?
Yes.
God, the Raiders. I mean, wow, are they bad?
Yeah.
So, and Fields looked bad. I mean, made too many mistakes.
Mhm.
And Russell is healthy now. Last week, for the first time, he looked healthy in practice. And so, not surprised. I would have leaned to Fields, but I brought up the 1974 Steelers 50 years ago, and they're being honored before this game. Of course, the late Joe Gilliam won't be there, but he, after 6 games in 1974, Joe Gilliam had them off to a 4-1-1 start. You think that's pretty good, right? This was not that they didn't know this was a dynasty, right? They had won a playoff game in 72, lost in 73, disappointing year in 73, 74. They open up on strike. Joe Gilliam crossed the picket line, made some wonderful friends in a couple of rookies named Stallworth and Swan. They dominated in preseason. Gilliam won the job. Joe Green wanted Bradshaw to win the job, told him to stay out on strike, kept the media away from Bradshaw, didn't want him getting mixed up in the strike, the fact Gilliam was doing well. He didn't want Bradshaw getting mixed up. Joe Green put his arm around him, took him under his wing, and took care of the situation. And Chuck Noll started Gilliam. And if you'd have saw him that preseason, you would have too. 4-1-1, and he benched him for Terry Bradshaw, who was unproven. And, Bradshaw steps in, plays 2 games, one really bad. The first game he played in replacing Joe Gilliam, they won, but his quarterback rating was 27. Second game he wins. It was in the 90s. Third game he loses to the Bengals. His quarterback rating was in the 30s. Terrible game. He gets benched for Terry Hanratty. Hanratty throws 15 passes and completes 2, and they win. I mean, they're so good. They put Bradshaw in, and that's when Bradshaw took off. Yeah, not that he took off at the end of the year, but that's when he never looked back as a starter. But it's amazing that it's so similar. It's a 4-2 team yanking its quarterback. Yeah. I assume they're going to yank him. It just seems like Tomlin's paving the way for Russ to step in.
Yeah. And on top of that, Tom Pelissero is reporting that he is in fact going to start. Now, that's not confirmed, but if you put all the pieces together, that's what it looks like. And so, Jim, I know one of the biggest things that you talked about with Wilson, and was it the calf injury or was it not, but the mobility. And so now if he does get the nod this weekend, how is this offense going to change, and how is it going to change how defenses are going to attack this Steelers offense?
Man, that's the problem. That's why I lean to Fields, because of the mobility, and this offensive line just lost another starter. Zach Frazier is going to definitely be out this week, but it sounds like, it's week to week. It doesn't sound like Tomlin. Hey, it could be 2 weeks and then the bye, right? Isn't the bye after the Giants?
Yes.
So that could be even that. So, the offensive line is just taking another blow. And here comes your more sackable quarterback, less mobile. Now, Russ in the spring, as I've said so many times, really looked mobile and spry. Looked like the Russ of old. And then he hurt his calf, pushing a sled first day of camp with Dino Tomlin, strength coach. from Boston College.
Mhm.
I mean, people tell me that with an old quarterback like that, if he didn't pop his calf then, he would have done it a week or two later.
Mhm.
So the wise people I've talked to say lay off the strength conditioning coordinator. Okay, so and Russ hasn't looked the same. Now,
Mhm.
last week, at least he was nimble. He was rolling out. He was bootlegging. But I haven't seen what he did in the spring, which is run for 10, 15 yards and pop out of bounds with a nice gain.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that. He tried it once before the calf reoccurred. Tried it once. Didn't look anything like he looked in the spring.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he's shot or not.
Mhm.
But at least he's trying now. They're letting him roll out and throw and jump over duffel bags, things like that. So, but man, the Jets, their defensive strength is their defensive interior,
Mhm.
and the Steelers just lost another guy, and Russ is a sackable. The size of Russ makes him sackable. He may be quick and mobile, but he can't run like Justin Fields.
Mhm.
So the Steelers opened as a point favorite. Now they're 1.5 point underdogs. Probably had to do with Devontae Adams. Somebody asked Tomlin today. Last week you had to prepare for. No, he said this. Last week we had to prepare for Devontae Adams. This week we're preparing for him as well.
Yeah, missed out on that one with him going to the Jets. And there's that rapport there with Aaron Rodgers, and what a great quarterback we're going to be seeing Sunday night. But back to Wilson here. So with that limited mobility and with a beat up offensive line, you would think he's going to be trying to get rid of the ball quickly. Probably, the short passes, quick passes, screen game. Is that going to hurt the running attack?
Probably. I don't know. I mean, this is a good defense. The running attack has to do more to impress me than beat up on the Ravens without their best defensive tackle. The Ravens, the Raiders.
Mhm.
It's been a long day for me, brother.
Yeah. All right. So,
Sometimes you get up at 2 and you can't fall back asleep because you know you're going to get up at 4. So you just stay up. You
wow.
get your work done and you go to school, learn some things, rush home for your podcast. I had a couple guests lined up, man. They never called back. Sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
These would have been interesting. But I don't want to say their name because we'll save them for another day.
We'll get him. We'll get him next week. We'll get him next week. So,
But
so what does that mean for Fields then for the rest of the season? Is this going to be, is he done in terms of getting the start, or do you think if Wilson performs poorly, Tomlin will go right back to Fields? Is he going to get some snaps for running plays? How is it going to play out for Fields here?
well, you got to look to the 74 Steelers because this is another budding dynasty right here, isn't it? I mean, you got to run that parallel. And Bradshaw got yanked again, so it could happen. This isn't Joe Gilliam. He's not Justin Fields isn't late for 30 meetings. Nobody has known of Joe Gilliam's heroin problem at the time yet. But Chuck Noll knew something was up. Joe Green knew something was up. Joe Green didn't like him.
Mhm.
And this isn't that case. Justin Fields is a bright guy who's very emotionally mature.
Mhm.
And I'm sure Tom was talking to him and saying, hey, I'm sure they're going to have packages like they had planned at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So I think Justin's got to be ready and he's going to come in and play.
Mhm.
See, I'm talking like Tom has already announced Russ Wilson's going to be a starter, right? I'm just presuming that.
Mhm.
But, that happens. He's going to sit down and talk to Justin.
Mhm.
And, you're in our plans. We're gonna want to sign you after this season. I would assume. And you're in our plans for this week.
Mhm.
And you're in our plans. Russ is 35. Who knows what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Tom will smooth talk it, and Justin's got the emotional IQ, high IQ in that regard. He'll be fine. This will be a good situation. This will be fine.
Mhm. And so if we're looking out long term with what we've seen from Fields so far, does this damage his confidence? I know you said that he's got a high emotional IQ, but with the success that he's had, they've gone 4-2. Sure, he's had 4 games these last 2 contests, but does he really fit into the future plans for the Steelers? I know you said that they're probably going to re-sign him. Do you think that impacts that at all?
I don't think it impacts him. I don't think it impacts that. I don't know. I mean, you know, just take a little bit off your fastball, off your backward laterals. Come on, man. You know, uh,
Sketchy.
I liked a lot of what I saw in just the last 2 games. I've seen some of the stuff I saw in training camp that he was up and down riding that roller coaster. But
Mm.
before that, I thought he was playing really well.
Yeah.
And I think it might bring the cost down. We'll see. We'll see. It's something to be. That's not a. You can't really gauge it right now. There's so much ball left to be played. Anything can happen.
Right.
So let it flow.
All right. Let it flow. Let it flow. We will. And let's flow forward here. Let's talk about the injuries because the team was bit by the injury bug once again against the Raiders. Most notably, Zach Frazier, who's playing so well. He's out this weekend. And you just add him to the long list that's building up.
Is there a Scott McCollum in the league?
I could Google it real fast.
No, 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 no. I'm just saying. I've interviewed Ryan McCollum. Okay, he's a cool dude. He made the team, and I talked to him. He was all right. He's been around. He's been
Mhm.
around 4 years. And as Mike Pursuta said on TV, he's a been there guy, but he hasn't done that yet. He hasn't played. Maybe barely. I can't remember.
Mhm.
But the second time I went to interview him, I was doing a story on Zach Frazier. And he had his back to me. He was reaching for something in his locker. I said, "Hey, Scott." He didn't turn around. I go up a little closer. "Scott." He turns around. He goes, "You talking to me?" "Yeah." He goes, "I'm not Scott." And I've interviewed this guy before. I wrote about him, Ryan McCollum. So I asked him, I said, "Is there a Scott McCollum in the league? How old am I? I mean, am I doddering now? You know, so anyway, Ryan McCollum's going to be your center. And so I don't know what other injuries. I think Alex Highsmith's coming back.
Yeah.
Sounded like Jeremiah Moon played much better. So there's not the worry. It doesn't seem to be the worry at outside linebacker.
Yeah.
The Jets are down. Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the Jet segment.
Yeah.
Any other injuries? I don't think there's anything really significant.
No,
Cordero Patterson might be coming back.
Patterson might be coming back. KZ might be coming back. Herbig's still going to be out this weekend. And then Tomlin really optimistic about Highsmith, which would be a
Yeah,
nice boost
yeah.
for.
It was nice how he put that. Yeah, it made you feel like he's definitely coming back.
Yeah.
And KZ, I don't know if he's lost his job to Terrell Edmonds because Tomlin talked about Terrell Edmonds on unasked. He didn't. Nobody asked about him, and he brought him up.
Mhm.
So probably lost that. I don't know if he lost the third safety job, but KZ's a good backup. But
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. And speaking of Moon, he, I was going to try to make some type of Halloween analogy. I think we have a full moon tomorrow, actually, but I can't bring it all together, Jim. But
let's see if Jeremiah can jump over it, man.
yeah, well, and he had a hell of a play with the punt block, and he did fill in nicely, stepping in with all the injuries at outside backer opposite TJ Watt. The defense played well after a slow start against
Yeah,
the Raiders.
yeah. Against really has to be one of the worst offensive teams in the NFL. I mean, really, who did they have? They have a tight end. And every time I looked up, either Minka or Joey Porter Jr. were covering him.
Yeah.
I mean, he still did some damage, but that's what they were able to do since there were no wideouts.
Mhm.
They were able to cover him with their cover corner and their all pro free safety. So yeah, they didn't have a quarterback. Um Defense and special teams. It was nice to see another block. They're getting prolific blocking kicks now.
Mhm.
Tomlin talked about it today, and Jeremiah Moon came at it at such a perfect angle. You start to wonder, is this Danny Smith or did he learn that with the Ravens? I mean, they're doing a good job. Loudermilk blocked the field goal.
Yeah.
It's becoming expected. and that's nice.
There's definitely some nice special teams play, and then you throw Boswell in there as well. But
Yeah, Boswell, it's too damn bad the punter's been out, but this new punter's been doing
yeah,
well, but he doesn't have the polish. I
hmm
mean, the other he's banging him.
yeah,
What's his name again? Cordless.
Corliss
But
Waitman.
yeah, he's banging him. But you know, Cameron Johnston, he could drop him inside the 5 for you if you needed him. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and but Calvin Austin's really turned into a nice punt returner. If Cordell Patterson comes back, then you got Patterson and Warren back to return kickoffs. If anybody, as the weather gets worse, there are going to be fewer balls flying out of the end zone, so there'll be more kick returns. I would hope.
yeah. And one thing I did want to bring up, Jim, is in watching this game, and I read a few articles kind of hitting at the same concept too, that, did the Steelers really win this game, or were they just the beneficiary of a lot of lucky breaks? And we're talking about some of those roughing the passer calls, one on the play with an interception, the punch out, the TJ punch out at the goal line, that turnover there. Was it luck? Did that play into this win, or
They had the luck going for them,
mhm,
but I mean, what was 32-13? I
mhm.
mean, come on. Yeah, I'm not going to say it was a lucky 19-point win. They had the calls going for them. And,
Yeah,
you could argue that those roughing the passer penalties were roughing the passer.
yeah,
But I thought that guy, he scored. I thought they should have, but they didn't.
mhm,
No, they didn't challenge it. They should have challenged it.
mhm.
But they ran no huddle, didn't they?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said, "Don't you run that crap on me."
And hey, we've been on the other side of that too, where everything is going for the advantage of the opposing team with the calls and how the plays break. So,
Exactly.
they got those bounces.
It comes around.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then just really quickly with the running game, and I know we talked about this before we got on air, but Najee finally had a breakout game. I think he had either his longest run of his career with the Steelers, or it's up there, maybe the second. But in watching Jaylen Warren, doesn't look to me like he's completely healthy yet.
Yeah, I don't know if he's not completely healthy or if he's rusty.
Hmm
I don't know. That hamstring bothered him in the spring. Then it carried over into the training camp, and then a knee. And it likes to move around like a virus.
hmm
Yeah, so I mean, it's the first time he hasn't looked that good. But he looked good returning that kickoff, the opening kickoff.
Yeah.
He looked good finding that fumble, man. I don't know how the Raiders didn't recover that.
Yeah. That was a oh, you know what moment, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they came out with it. And then that brings us to this weekend, another Sunday night game for the Steelers. It's in Pittsburgh. It's against the Jets. We mentioned Rodgers earlier. What are you looking forward to in this contest?
Well, I'll tell you, the Jets lost two more. They had their nickelback missed the game last week. Then they lost the corner, DJ Reed. Then they lost its strong safety, Chuck Clark, who we know from the Ravens, right? I mean, if they're down three defensive backs, that could go in Russ's favor. I mean, I don't know the Sauce take away Pickens, and then it's a bunch of reserves covering a bunch of reserves.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
that's what it looks like the Steelers have on the other side.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's at Pittsburgh. They lost their last Sunday night game. You wouldn't figure that Dallas is going to be any part of Dallas took over not even a quarter, it seemed like, but there was expecting a lot of Dallas fans. I'm not expecting a lot of Jets fans. This
Mhm.
should be a rabid fan base, especially if Russ is introduced as the quarterback.
Mhm.
Man, it's a toss up in my mind. I think the bookies got this point spread right. It could go either way. I'm really, the Jets played on Monday night, so they'll have less rest. And that's not going to help.
Mhm.
What chaos they have going on.
Mhm.
The defensive coordinator's the head coach. He's got all kind of he's got two he's got a lot of work. Aaron Rodgers, I guess, is he the head coach?
pretty
Or
much.
is he the general manager?
Yeah.
The coach is fired and he just got his best receiver.
Did you see that the sideline interaction earlier this year after Rogers threw a touchdown pass and the coach they just fired, Robert Saleh, he went up to give him a hug and he's like, he pushed him away.
Yeah, but that was just kind of like a stiff arm. Did you see what Max Crosby did to his coach?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, I didn't read anything about it. I didn't see that anywhere when I saw it on TV. Blasted him in the chest. It was after Crosby did something. I forget. It was one of his bigger plays.
Mm-hmm.
His coach came over to high five, smack him. Bang! I mean, is that Max Crosby the crazy guy? Is the coach expecting that kind of stuff? I never got an explanation on that.
Wow.
So yeah, okay. Aaron Rodgers, he's crazy, man. I don't know. I don't like him.
He's going to pose a threat to this defense, so they've got to be ready. I saw something where he was talking today. I think he was on the Pat McAfee show or something. And was just saying, "Oh, Pittsburgh's a magical place to play," yada yada yada. But he's gonna test that defense. He's gonna stress that secondary. So the one thing defensively, they have trouble stopping the run. So we'll see if the Steelers could use that.
Oh, do they have trouble stopping the run?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, their pass defense is their I was looking last night. Their pass defense is their strength, but you said they're beat up. So, but in terms of their running defense, we'll see if they can get something.
Well, I know the Williams boys are in the middle. Quinnen and what's the other guy? Aren't they brothers?
I don't know.
Quinnen's a tackle, and one of their inside linebackers is so good. C.J. Mosley's had a toe problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
that's all I got for you, Jeremy. Man, you took it all out of my brain. There's really not much in there today. I'm a little beat up myself.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to stop. Right, we're just going to end it here. We're going to rest up. We're going to get ready for Sunday night, and we'll be back here for. We're almost at episode 130. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers too, Jim. We're getting there. We're like 10 away.
I know, but we've been 10 away for a couple of weeks, and we have Max Starks couldn't put us over the top.
I know.
I thought Max was really good too.
Oh, he was phenomenal. He's phenomenal. Hey, maybe one of these guests that you're talking about today will push us over the hump for next week.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, man.
We want to thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share with your family and friends, leave a comment, and we'll see you back here next week, hopefully discussing another Steelers victory. Jim, get some rest. Have a great week. Take care, everybody.
Peace, Jeremy. Take care, brother.